Hi, this is Tom Soane, and welcome to another episode of The Anonymous Landlord. And today I am really pleased to welcome back Antoine and Caryn, who are real life, not only investors, but they also teach people how to get investors for their property deals. Now, just to add a little bit to that, if you are somebody who wants to invest in property and you find loads of property deals, you just wish you had a bit more money to be able to buy them and refurbish them or redevelop them or anything like that. These people are the ones that not only could invest in you or connect you with people that would, they'll also teach you how to find investors that will invest in your property deals. And these people are like absolute gold dust. So I'm very pleased, and thank you very much for giving us some of your time to educate us on this part of the world. So welcome along.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having us again. I don't remember when the first time was, probably a few months ago now, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, definitely. Great to see you again, Tom.
Yeah, you too. And last time we put a lot of effort into talking about Antoine and Caryn, the investors, and what you would look for personally in property deals and developers and anybody that's investing in a property for you to be able to invest in them. But now I'd love it if everybody listening to this could come away from this episode knowing things like, what should I include in a good or a quality investor pack? What training can I get to learn how to go and find investors, to research the right information, to collect and present the right information so that I'm guaranteed to get funding for my property deals? So it's a bit of an open chat, but let's start off with, you are the founders and directors of Quality Investor Packs, right?
That's absolutely right. Yeah. And it started by being private investors, like we talked about in our first conversation. And what happened to us is we were looking for property developers to work with. We're looking for investment opportunities. And we quickly realized that there was a big gap. There was a big knowledge gap. And the best example of this was investor packs. We've seen investor packs of all sorts, and most of them were raising more questions than provided answers. And that's how we started helping people out with their investor packs and make them suitable and make them work for private investors like ourselves.
Brilliant. And I think a lot of people miss this part, don't they? They go around networking and chatting to people that might have a lot of money, and then they'll say to them, hey, look, would you invest in this deal for me? Invest in this deal. It's brilliant. It's never going to go wrong. It's fantastic. It's going to rent for this much money every month. And I'm buying it this much below market value. Please invest in me. And that's kind of where a lot of people go wrong, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so, I would say that there are two things wrong with that approach. So the first one is that, you're potentially breaching FCA financial promotion rules because you're going around asking for money and you don't know who the person that you're speaking to is. So the FCA financial promotion rules state that you can only make a financial promotion to investors that fall within an exempt category. And that's usually high net worth investors and sophisticated investors. So really, you need to be sure that your audience fall into one of those categories before you ask for money. But secondly, as you've just pointed out, that sort of approach is really the kind where you're just throwing mud at the wall and hoping some of it would stick. There is no process to it. There is no plan to it. So it will become a really time-consuming strategy, for the want of a better word, to just go around speaking to random people and hoping that one of them would turn around and say, yes, I'd love to be the investor in your deal. So like everything else in life, if you have a plan, if you have a process, it's going to be much easier and better for you.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. And I speak to a lot of property investors that want to get into property investing, and they're on the part of trying to find the property deals. And really what you do is open up, well, not just you, but just by doing presenting the right information, collecting the right information, and presenting it to the right investors, you can do so many more deals and so many more, get yourself so many more properties into your portfolio and increase your income and do all of those wonderful things, become financially free that everyone buzzes on about, So, okay, let's just quickly try and summarize, if you can. What is an investor pack?
An investor pack is the marketing brochure that you are going to use to sell yourself, your business, and your deal. So that's the document that's going to showcase, you, the way you work, what you've done in the past, maybe completed projects, your case studies, and then at some stage, a live investment opportunity. So a live deal that you are seeking investment from a private investor for.
That's a really good answer, because in there you said the way that it's a sales brochure for yourself, to present yourself. And, I think a lot of people, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people try and sell the deal first. But you as investors, you're thinking, well, okay, if you're asking me for a couple of £100,000, well, who are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Tom, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And it actually ties in with the earlier question that you had, that one of the things wrong about going around asking people if you would invest in the project that you have is that you haven't taken the time to build a relationship with that person. And a business relationship, we usually liken it to that of a romantic relationship. So if you were looking to go out with someone, you would obviously start off by going out on a first date, then possibly a second and third, before you eventually get to the stage where you might, propose marriage. So asking someone for money without knowing them, it's like proposing marriage on the first date. And many people don't seem to grasp that concept. You wouldn't do that if you've just met someone that you're attracted to. But then it seems to be completely fine to walk up to a stranger and go, do you have 200,000? Because I'd like you to part with that money today. And that is just not the way to go about it. So more than anything, what we really teach is the fact that you need to build relationships, and you can do that through your investor pack. As Antoine highlighted, it's about selling you and your business first and foremost before moving on to the deal.
Yeah, really good point. And you said earlier on about, first of all, you've got so many different hurdles. If you're just going around Facebook groups and putting deals into Facebook groups to say, hey, I want funding for this, and the chances of getting funding that way are slim to none anyway. But if you're then promoting financial deals to investors, you run that risk of falling foul of the FCA. And so that's a really good point that everybody should take note of. And that can stretch across so many different things. If you're just saying to someone, you can get this yield, this return on investment, it's going to be this much cash, you're going to get this back in this time, then that is financial promotion, right? That's it. But also, yeah, really good point. There are going to be those people that have a friend who is wealthy that's happy to invest. Okay, that's fine. But that's kind of what you're saying. They already know each other. But if you are an investor and you have been offered, I don't know, a block of 10 flats that you're going to buy it, you're going to refinance it and then keep it and rent it out, then if someone's going to invest in that and fund that, then they need to know you. That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, put yourself in the shoes of the private investor. How would you behave? How would you feel if someone was coming to you and say, look, this is what I need. This is what I am. This is what I do. And this is what I need. So how long would it take you to be comfortable with that person, comfortable enough to actually seriously consider investing in a project with them? And, use that information, use how you feel to actually build a realistic plan around it. And that's going to involve how early you have to start looking for investors before you even get a deal, because it's going to take a while. It's not going to take a few days. It's going to take minimum a few weeks, potentially a few months, sometimes even longer, depending on the investor that you're talking to. Yep,
I agree. Couldn't agree more. Okay, let's put this into a scenario, and we're going to get into a bit more technical stuff in a minute, because I'd like to really learn a bit more about the training that is available to anybody that wants to attract investors and do more property projects. But can you give me a quick idea of, as an investor, if I came to you and I said, right, I've been offered this really good opportunity, and we already know each other, or no, let's say we don't know each other, but I came to you and I said, I've been offered this really good opportunity to buy, again, I'll use the same example, a block of 10 flats, which they need a little bit of work doing to them, and I'm buying them below market value, and then I'll be able to refinance them and get all of the money back out, plus a bit of profit, pay your investment back to you plus interest. So it's a really good deal. It's a safe, secure deal, right? Yay. How would I come to you and present that to you in a way that you would find appealing? And can you include in your answer something about the exit strategy that appeals to you when it comes to buy to let or BRR? I call it flip to let, buy, refurbish, and finance. There's a question in there somewhere.
Let's break it down. So first of all, our number one advice is don't lead with a deal. So let's take the deal out of the equation for now, and let's focus on building the relationship. And
Damn it, I've already failed.
When we say building the relationship, it doesn't have to be necessarily, very time consuming, and it doesn't have to be like loads of calls and all of that. The investor pack can help you build that relationship, because what you want is your investor pack to do a lot of the talking for you. Most private investors are going to have the same questions. So what you want is your investor pack to capture the answers to most questions that private investors would have. So start by building a relationship. So don't mention a deal. Even if you have a live deal, don't mention it. If you mention a live deal to someone, they're going to feel the pressure, okay? And their answer is going to be impacted, is going to be affected by that. And chances are they're either going to tell you no, or they're going to do the very British thing of, giving you the silent treatment and, not saying no, and, saying maybe, but it actually means no. And, it's not helping you in any way, right? And that's not something anybody wants. So, build that relationship first. But let's just fast forward. You've sent the right information to these people. You've started building that relationship, and the investor that you're talking to is comfortable receiving and talking about live investment opportunities. And you've also made sure that the compliance boxes are ticked. So you've made sure that you're talking to high net worth or sophisticated investors. So this is done. Now let's move on to the deal. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, how can I structure the deal in a way that's going to work for me and that's going to work for the private investor at the same time? So we're talking about buy and hold in this case. So what you want to figure out is what sort of involvement. So first of all, what your objective is for the long term. Are you looking to hold for just a few years or hold for the very long term? What's your plan? And how you want investors involved. So let's imagine you buy a block of flats. You've got some work that needs to be done to the flats in that block, meaning you're going to increase the value of these flats. And the plan is for just you, the property investor, the person who's buying them, to just hold them in your name and just you. So you're only interested in getting a private investor for a short period of time, just to pay for the refurb works, or to help you with the deposit, to go with bridging finance. So what you have to make sure is that the deal allows you to repay the investor when you're going to exit it. So when you're going to refinance onto a buy-to-let mortgage for this block of flats. So you got to make sure there's enough money in the deal to repay the investor, along with the interest that you have to pay them if it's a loan, or with their share of the profit if you're doing an equity investment. So that's one way to look at it. Kind of a short-term investment opportunity where you're buying a block of flat and you want to keep it just for yourself. Now, there's another way to look at it, and it's more of a joint venture, long-term joint venture type of arrangement, where you are building a portfolio for yourself as well as the investor. So the both of you together, you're going to be owning properties. And in this case, you've got more flexibility because you don't have an end date. So you don't have a date by which you have to repay the investor the cash that they invested. You are, joint owners in the project, you're investing some money, and maybe your exit strategy is to sell the portfolio in 15, 20, or 25 years. And that gives you a lot more flexibility. But it's a different type of investment for private investors. So, it works for some, doesn't work for others. So that's something that you have to figure out when when you're putting it all together, when you're looking at a deal, when you're putting the investor pack together, and when you reach out to these investors that you're trying to convince to invest in your project.
That's a really good answer and really good advice there about how you see the exits as well, short-term, long-term, joint venture. And I think a lot of people will take note of that. Because look, there's a lot of people that want to build portfolios and achieve that rental income and the profit that brings, as well as a bit of capital growth as well. And what you're saying, if you're going to do a joint venture with a property investor where they fund the purchasing and the refurbishments, but the joint venture could be that the property investor is repaid a percentage of the net profits to cover their expense, to cover their interest and their interests. And then you can take the rest. So, and I'll put that into an example, and sorry to waffle on a little bit here, but I'll put that into an example. If you find somebody that's prepared to finance your property investments and they've said to you that all I want is 10% per year on the cash that I lend, and you can go and find property investments that return 15% on the cash that's invested in the properties, then you pay your investor 10%, they're happy, and you keep the 5% for yourself, and that's technically free money. And would I be right in summarizing it as simply as that, as that's one option?
Yeah, so it has to be attractive and palatable to investors. And I think that the downside of doing it the way that you suggest is the security that you offer to the investor may not be very clear. Mm-hmm. So, if you go on a deal by deal basis, as opposed to, just borrowing money and then using that money to build your portfolio, I think it makes it a bit clearer for the investor to know what the exposure is, what the risk is, and it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to offer security to the investor. So that could be, a first charge on the property, which is the best security out there in the property investment world. And that's going to be one of those things that investors are going to find very attractive. If you start telling them, I can offer you first charge security and a personal guarantee, for instance, then the savvy investors who understand what's going on in the market, the value of security, are going to be attracted to that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And really, we're all property investors. So you're only going to invest in something with that security, and that's going to match your own comfort levels, isn't it? If your comfort level is higher risk for higher return, then fine. Maybe you'd look for slightly less security. But if your comfort zone is to have things that secure, safe investments, you might make a little bit less money, but you've got much secure, much safer investments. Okay, so now look, I know that your business Quality Investor Packs, there are a lot of people that probably won't fully grasp what what an investor pack actually is. And there are probably a lot of people that think they don't need one. They could just go and give the gift of the gab and just chat and win people over. But I firmly believe that actually to learn how to use an investor pack properly and put it together properly is fundamentally invaluable to any property investor that wants to move on to bigger and better things and leverage other people's cash to grow portfolios and build income and so on. Now, I know that you give a free download, don't you?
That's right. Yes, there's a free investor pack template and other free resources on our website on raising investor finance in general and investor packs in particular.
Yeah. And look, this isn't a sales pitch, by the way. Actually, Antoine and Caryn have very kindly come on to just try and help educate property investors and investor landlords on how they can grow and how they can do bigger, better things. But I do think that everybody who is into property in any way should go onto your website and absorb all of the free resources that are on there. You probably give away a bit too much, if I'm honest with you. But do you want to tell us your website address?
Yeah, sure. Our website address is qualityinvestorpacks.com. So all one word, Quality Investor Packs, that's in the plural.com.
Thank you. Okay, so that's perfect. And so from here, if someone is looking, right, so let's say we've got a standard property investor. They've been doing it the old-fashioned way where they've saved up a bit of money, bought a property using their cash as a deposit, and they've rented it out, and they've got a little portfolio of properties. Now they want to take it to the next level. Maybe they've carried on in property and they found this mysterious block of 10 flats that we keep talking about. They've been offered this properties like that, or they found properties like that, and they keep seeing them everywhere, and they think, oh, I wish I could afford that. And then they hear this podcast where Antoine and Caryn are saying, well, actually, you can afford that if you do it the right way. So this person now, this hypothetical person is now thinking, I want to learn more about this. I really want to start training and learning and developing myself on working with working with investors to generate more property opportunities to grow my portfolio. Where can they learn? What can they learn? And what do you guys teach?
Right. So we help property entrepreneurs create quality investor packs that will leave investors wanting to give them money for their property projects. So that's what we specialize in. And alongside that, we also help property entrepreneurs with all aspects of working with private investors. So as we know, working with a private investor is not just contained to the investor pack alone. There are a lot of other bits that go around it, such as, communication. So investor relations is an important piece. So we're putting together different resources at the moment to help property entrepreneurs with all of that. But our main focus is on the investor packs, because we believe that does a lot of the talking for you, and having a good one in place would just make your life so much easier when it comes to fundraising.
And once you've done an investor pack, am I right in thinking that once you've learned how to do an investor pack, because you could download a template and you could try and fill it out yourself, but that's the same as downloading the ingredients for a McDonald's and then trying to make it yourself. It's just not the same thing, right? You could do all of that. And I do urge people, by the way, to get onto the website, qualityinvestorpacks.com, and download that template at least. But from there, you can really get into how to put it together deal by deal and person by person, investor by investor. What sort of differences do you think there might be, or what sort of tips would you give someone in making that investor pack? And why would somebody choose to train with you on putting those investor packs together?
Yeah, so our top tip on creating investor packs, which we tell all our clients, is that reading your investor pack should be like having a conversation with you. We want to see your personality shine through. It should just be a reflection of who you are, because it doesn't make sense if you have an investor pack that doesn't sound like you at all, because at some point you are going to be jumping on a call or meeting the investor face to face. And what you don't want to happen is that disconnect where they go, you don't sound at all like that. You don't echo what you say. So it's really important that it sounds like you, which is why the support and training we provide is very much focused on the content. So we provide support on, the type of content that should go in the investor pack, but it's all created and written by you because it needs to sound like you. So we show you good, we show you bad examples. And the idea behind this is the good examples will inspire you to give you an idea of what to write. And the bad examples will show you exactly what to avoid. But we highly advise that they never just copy blindly word for word, because when you do that, you are going to get that disconnect, in different chunks being from different places. And it's not reading well, because we've seen investor packs like that, where you read through it and you go like, this is not all written by the same person, and it just doesn't flow.
Yeah, that makes sense. I suppose that's the same with everything, isn't it? When you get an email from somebody that you've been talking to over and over again, and their email is written in, 1900s English, because it's trying to be Shakespearean almost, and you've just been speaking to this person and they sound just like a regular person, and then they start using big long words and all of those things. So no, I agree with you. Definitely agree with you. What about then if we were looking at, do you think it's worthwhile going to this length of education and research and collecting of information and presenting of information through an investor pack, is it worth it for somebody who's just looking to do a buy to let or a flip to let, where they can buy it below market value, add a little bit of value, and then refinance it and pay off any borrowings that they've had? Is it still worth doing it on those bases?
Yeah, anybody who's looking to scale their property business, then it's definitely going to be worth it for them. If you're serious about property, if you want to get more deals, or if you want to do better deals, bigger deals, then that makes sense, because you want to, we were talking earlier, you need to have a plan, you need to have a process, and an investor pack is going to be a key part of that process. That's going to help you do it with less effort, less time, and quicker and better. So I think, it's really important to have that nailed down. Yeah,
it's about also professionalizing your business. So if you're looking to take your business to a professional level, having a good investor pack gives you that extra edge, because as investors ourselves, when we were looking for investment opportunities, people who prepared a good document certainly caught our attention over someone who would give us information over random text messages or an email here, or maybe I'm going to suddenly share with you a link to my Google Drive. It's a lot of effort on the investor's part to try and piece all that information together and say, we will have a conversation over a number of months. So at some point when Tom said, you come to me, you found that magical block of 10 flats, and I go, okay, great. I want to look back on what Tom and I have shared in the past. Having an investor pack will make it really easy for me to revisit the information that you have provided to get me up to speed, with what you've told me you do, what your business does, and, is this a viable option? Imagine if it's all scattered through emails, texts, maybe in a coffee meeting. You're relying on the investor to keep track of everything you have said. And that's likely to lead to mistakes, or perhaps the investor just losing interest because you're making it too difficult for them to make that investment.
That is such a good point. And that is one of the key points I'd like people to take from this, in that if you are asking somebody for money, then you've got to make it easy for them. They don't owe you anything. And in fact, there are more people that want money than there are prepared to lend money. So actually, really good point there. And I think the last part I'd like to end on is of course, I want people to be able to contact you. So what is the next stage for someone who says, yeah, do you know what? I really need to improve this part of my property venture. So what do people do first?
So they should visit our website, as I mentioned. So our website is really the gateway to us. You can connect with us on social media. So we are active across the various social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and we continue to share our knowledge on those platforms. And there is a link to connect with us, to speak to us through our website as well, if people want to take that next step. So yeah, plenty of ways to consume information at a pace that suits you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me. And look, I'd just like to say as well that you could go to a bank, you can go to a private equity firm, you could do a number of things to try and get funding for a property deal, whether that's a little property deal or a big property deal or a massive development. You can find places that will fund you on those developments. However, if you want to have a proper investor who's going to invest in you and not make you find all of these hundreds of different fees and put down 35% deposits on the purchase and then charge you the earth for the development of the project and so on and lots of different exit clauses and safety clauses. If you're going to have an investor that's going to invest in you, then I just want to echo what Caryn just said, because that's really resonated with me, in that you've got to make it easy for them. So I just want to say thank you once again for sharing your knowledge with us. Antoine and Caryn, thank you very much. Is there anything you'd like to finish on? Any little quotes or sayings?
I'll just add to what you just said, because I think it's entirely true. And one of the benefits of working with private investors is that you've got a direct relationship with the people who are actually going to fund the deal. If you're looking at a private equity firm, or if you're looking at bridging finance or a bank, they are merely intermediaries. and you don't have a direct relationship to the decision maker, to the person who's actually going to say, yes or no, I'm interested in funding that deal. And I think that's one of the benefits of going direct to private investors. You can build that relationship, and you can have the investor for a very long period of time if you do things well, if they're happy, if you communicate well. It's a long-term investment in a win-win relationship that you can really commit to.
And on that note, I'd like to add that you should start looking for investors today. Don't wait until you have found the magical 10 blocks of flats before you start looking for money. Because, we hate to break it to you, but that's often too late to start looking for money, because we get that. People find a deal, they really need an investor, and they go like, how can you help me create an investor pack? As we mentioned earlier on in the podcast, it is important to build that relationship. So don't wait until you have found a deal to start looking for investors. Start today.
Great advice. And hey, sometimes I think this stuff goes over people's heads, especially if you're an investor landlord who just wants to grow your portfolio. You maybe think, well, I don't need to get involved in that. I just buying some buy-to-lets. Well, if you want to do that quicker and you want to scale it up, then absolutely you should look at different ways to funding than just the standard buy-to-let mortgage lenders. There may well be better options for you to grow. So I'll finish there by saying thank you once again for joining me. I'm sure this isn't the last one. My name's Tom Sohn, and I've been very, very privileged to be joined by Antoine and Caryn. Do get in contact with them. Definitely go and download the free stuff that's on their website. Even if you only download their investor pack template, it's a really good insight and a guide into what sort of things investors would look for if they're going to invest in your property deals. And that can be massive developments where you're building 50 properties, or it can be one buy-to-let property that you're being able to buy for below market value. And remember that within all of this, think about this from the investor's side, because actually you've got to make it easy for them, because to them, this is an investment and they want to make profit without putting in tons of effort, in the same way that you're a property investor, and your property, if you remember my saying, is nothing more than a vehicle which is designed to make profit without you. So my name's Tom Sohn, this is Antoine and Caryn, and this is The Anonymous Landlord.